My name is Ria Calder, 30 years old. By the time I was 10, the family scoreboard was set in permanent ink. My older sister, Michaela, Mika to everyone, especially the announcers who loved the shape of her name, was the star athlete who made small towns feel like stadiums. My younger brother, Eli, was the academic prodigy, a neat row of trophies and scholarships and articles, clipped by our mother like holy verses. And me? I was the one who filled in the spaces. Not exceptional enough to be displayed on the mantle, not messy enough to be scolded. Useful, invisible, reliable. Reliability becomes a habit when people reward it. You learn to run toward whatever is on fire. You learn you can live on the smoke. When my parents called a few years ago and said times were tough, Dad between contracts, Mom's hours cut, the house bleeding, as she put it, I didn't hesitate. I set up a transfer on the first of the month and built the rest of my life around that subtraction. Rent on time, lights on, internet paid, insulin refills for Dad's neighbor they sometimes handled, but somehow never paid for. I told myself I was proving something, that I wasn't a disappointment, that I could be counted on, that I was part of a family I could be proud to say out loud. The day it broke wasn't supposed to break. I had a bag of groceries balanced on my hip, rice, eggs, frozen vegetables, their favorite tea, because Mom said it helped her sleep when bills made her chest tight. I walked up the steps and heard laughter through the door, the kind that comes in layers, one voice rolling over another. I smiled. Ridiculous, I know, because laughter is a sound I still want to be welcome in. Then the words separated from the sound. Can you believe she still hasn't found anyone? That was my father, wry and pleased with himself. What's she waiting for? 30 years? He laughed at his own punchline. She's probably afraid no one will want her, Eli chimed, light as a shrug. Why would they, Mika added. She's always so serious about work, and look at her, she's barely getting by. It's hilarious. Hilarious. If I had set the groceries down, maybe I would have walked away. But my hands were occupied, and the door was unlocked, and then my mother's voice landed with a brightness that shouldn't belong to anyone's mother. Well, at least she's good for one thing, she said. She pays our bills. Can you imagine how desperate she must be to send us money? What a loser. Something in me tilted. The bag slipped a little. I pushed the door open. The laughter stopped, like I'd cut the wire. My mother's mouth was still in the shape of a smile. My father straightened. Mika and Eli traded looks that said, play it cool. I stepped into the foyer and set the groceries on the console table. What's so funny? I asked. My voice surprised me. Calm, almost curious. Silence hardens differently depending on who freezes it. Oh, honey, Mom said, smile cracking as it tried to become innocence. It's nothing. We were just joking around. You know how we are. Yeah, Eli added too quickly. Lighten up. It's not that deep. Not that deep, I repeated, as if the phrase were on sale and I needed to test it. You're laughing about how I struggle, about how I help you pay your bills. That's your joke. Mom's smile died. She fluttered a hand as if shooing a fly. Don't take it so personally. You know we appreciate what you do. Mika rolled her eyes. Seriously, Ria, you're turning this into a thing. We haven't even talked about you like that. I glanced at the hallway mirror, at the woman holding too many things, always holding. You appreciate it, I said evenly. Is that why you called me a loser? Is that why it's hilarious that I'm barely getting by while I keep this house afloat? Dad leaned back, arms crossing. The posture of a judgment he thought he'd already won. We were joking. Don't act like you're a saint. You're our kid. It's normal to help your parents. Mika and Eli help too, but you don't see them throwing it in our faces. That line found the small switch in my chest and flipped it. They help? I asked, looking between them. Mika smirked. Here and there. Here and there, I repeated. I've been paying your rent, your utilities, your everything, for years. But tell me more about their generosity. Was it a bag of groceries? A matching donation to the family group chat? You're so dramatic, Eli said, the word dramatic sounding like female in disguise. If you're that bitter about helping, you should have just said no. I breathed in. It tasted like something clean. You're right, I said. I should have said no. Mom's face brightened like a host who thinks the guest has finally agreed to stay for dessert. Good, she said. Let's stop this pity party and move on. Dinner's almost ready. No, I said. I should have said no years ago, and I'm saying it now. You're on your own from here. All four of them froze, the way people do when their favorite story stops working. Dad's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? It means I'm done, I said simply. No more money, no more help, nothing. Mom scoffed. Don't be ridiculous. You can't just stop. We've depended on that money. I know, I said. That's why you're laughing, because you knew I'd never stop, no matter how much you disrespected me. Mika stood, grabbing her keys like a curtain call was beneath her. Whatever, this is boring. I've got things to do. Same, Eli said. Enjoy your little tantrum. They left. It was almost merciful. Don't be like this, Mom said after the door clicked. We're your family. Families help each other. You'll regret this. I looked at her, then at my father. I won't. Have a good night. I picked up the groceries I'd brought. Ridiculous, but I did. Walked out and let their voices fall behind me like rain I was finally stepping out of. For the first time in years, I didn't send money at the start of the month. I waited for guilt, the way you wait for a storm you've been told will flatten your roof. It didn't come. Relief did, quiet and simple, like waking up without pain you'd convinced yourself was part of your personality. I ignored the first few calls from Mom. Then came the texts. Did you forget? We're behind on bills. Can you send today? Is everything okay? Why aren't you replying? I didn't answer. I was not interested in being pulled into a whirlpool by the person splashing. When Dad finally called, I picked up. He's not a texter. Curiosity is a stubborn thing. What's up, he said. No hello. Just a problem shaped like a greeting. You didn't send the money. I know, I said. A beat. What does that mean? We count on it. You know that. Not anymore, I said. You can't just stop, he snapped, his voice going up the stairs like a child. Do you know how far behind we'll be? Why are you doing this to us? Because I'm tired of being treated like garbage, I said, the word landing like a key in a lock. If I'm such a loser, stop expecting me to take care of everything. He went quiet, then, we need to talk. Your mother wants a family dinner tomorrow. You're coming. I almost said no. Then something curious unfurled. Hope's little cousin, the one that wears a helmet. Maybe they would own it. Maybe there would be a sliver of sorry. Against my better judgment, I said yes. That night, my phone buzzed with a text from Aaron. How's your evening? Need me to swing by? I stared at his name a second longer than necessary. We'd been careful, building slowly, honestly. I typed, family stuff. Dinner tomorrow. I'll fill you in after. His reply came with the warmth I recognize even in pixels. I'm here. Call if you want. When I set the phone down, a notification blinked from social media. Sienna had commented on one of Mika's old meet photos. I didn't think much of it until I remembered Sienna's last name and the time she said hello to my sister at a fundraiser, like they were more than acquaintances. Aaron's ex had a longer reach than I originally understood. The thought was a splinter. I left it where it was. I had a bigger piece to pull. The next evening, I would sit at my parents' table and find out whether they wanted a daughter or an ATM. I already knew the answer. I still wanted to hear it said out loud. The next evening, the house smelled like lasagna and a threat. Mom's company candles were lit, the ones she saves for holidays, and people she needs to impress. The dining room was staged the way she liked her stories. Formal, symmetrical, inevitable. Dad sat at the head of the table as if a crown came with the chair. There were 3 plates set, not 5. Mika and Eli, predictably, had found somewhere else to be now that the performance required consequences. Sit, Dad said, not unkindly, just the way you speak to a dog you still expect to heel. I sat. I folded my hands in my lap to stop them from reaching for my purse, my phone, my exit. Mom cleared her throat. We wanted to talk about this money situation. There's nothing to talk about, I said. I'm not sending any more. Don't be stubborn, Dad said, voice measured, a judge reading a sentence that had already been typed. We are your parents. You owe us respect and support. I don't owe you anything, I said. Respect is not a bill you mail me every month. Support is not a tax. Mom's expression hardened, the softness leaving like steam from a kettle. That's not how families work. We did so much for you. Like what? I asked. She blinked. We raised you. That's the minimum, I said. You don't get a lifetime stipend for feeding a child you chose to have. Dad's palm slapped the table. Lasagna trembled in the pan. Watch your tone. No, I said, calm staying with me like a friend who refuses to leave when the party gets mean. Watch your behavior. You think you're punishing us by withholding money, he said. You're just proving what a selfish mistake you are. The words found the place inside me that used to be a bruise and touched it without pain. I laughed, quiet and clean. If that's who I am, I said, standing, I'll make it easy. I'll stay out of your lives. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't expect anything. Mom's eyes widened. You can't mean that. We're your family. A family doesn't treat one member like an ATM while laughing at her behind her back, I said. You've made it clear how you feel about me. I'm returning the favor. Dad pointed, a crooked scepter. If you walk out that door, don't come back. Good, I said. That's the plan. I walked out. Their voices followed me, but quieter this time, as if even they knew the theater lights had gone dark. At home, I waited for guilt and found relief instead. The lightness of a backpack finally off my shoulders. That didn't stop the siege. By the time I woke up the next morning, my phone was choking on missed calls. Mom's messages stacked like plates. Come back and talk to us. We didn't mean what we said. You're blowing this out of proportion. I let them sit there. I wasn't interested in negotiating with the authors of my apology. In the afternoon, Eli texted the way he debates, smug and sure of the win, before the opening statement. Eli, you're making a scene over nothing. Me, not my problem. Eli, you're acting like a child. Grow up. I set the phone down and breathed. Every boundary I'd ever tried to draw had been written in pencil. This one was ink. That night my phone buzzed. Aaron, you home? Want company or space? I stared at the question. It was ordinary and it was everything. Me, space tonight. I'm okay. Aaron, proud of you. Call if you want me there anyway. I put on water for tea and stared at the steam until it disappeared. The kitchen was quiet in a way that didn't demand I fix anything. A week passed. I learned that silence can be a practice, not a punishment. I slept like someone who belonged to herself. Then Mom called again, voice bright and brittle. Good news, she said. We figured everything out. Mika and Eli are going to help with the bills now, so you don't have to worry about us. Good, I said, and meant it. But, she added, and I felt the word arrive before she said it, we were hoping you could send just a little something to tide us over until they get everything sorted, just for this month. I almost laughed. Are you serious? After everything, you're still asking me for money? Don't be like that, she said, slipping on her Mother of the Year voice. You're the only one we can count on. I'm not, I said, and hung up gently, the way you put a sleeping child down when you finally admit you cannot carry them all night. 2 more weeks of blessed quiet, and then a new number lit my screen. Mika, you have any idea how much trouble you've caused? Me. Enlighten me. Mika. Mom and Dad are panicking about rent. Eli and I are helping as much as we can, but we're not made of money. Me. You mean the few hundred you tossed at them after years of doing nothing? Mika. These are our parents. They did everything for us. You don't just abandon them. Me. Where was this energy when I was the one carrying everything alone? Mika. You're selfish. You've always been selfish. Me. I spent years sacrificing for you while you called me a loser. I stopped. That's not selfish. That's survival. Mika. Do whatever you want. Don't come crying to us when you realize the mistake you've made. She didn't understand that the mistake had been years of saying yes. That evening, I was scrolling through social media when I saw a tag from Eli's account. A restaurant, low lighting, wine glasses catching chandelier glow. My parents sat with Eli and friends, all smiles, plates full, drinks in hand. The caption read, "Family first, no matter what." My stomach turned. The same people who could not pay rent were relaxed and smug under chandeliers. I scrolled through the comments as if diving could find oxygen. A friend had written, "Thanks again for dinner. Can't believe you picked up the tab." Eli replied, "Of course, you know how we are." How they are. I stared until the screen dimmed itself in self-preservation. The feeling that rose wasn't rage. It was recognition. How many nights had I financed without being invited? How many laughs layered over the sound of me skipping dinner to make their rent? I didn't throw my phone. I called Mom. She answered on the first ring, voice cautious. "Oh, hi, sweetie. I wasn't expecting—" "I saw Eli's post," I said. Silence, then the sound of someone choosing words that won't bruise their tongue. "It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," I said. "You claim you're drowning. Then you go out and let him pick up the tab. How long have you been lying to me? How many times did you use my money for nights like that?" "We've been under a lot of stress," she said. "We needed a nice night out to relax. You wouldn't understand." "You're right," I said. "I don't understand how you can call me selfish while living off my sacrifices. Explain that." "Don't talk to me like that," she snapped. "We did everything for you. If you want to hold a little help over our heads, maybe you are the selfish one." "You did everything?" I asked. "From where I'm standing, you took, and when I stopped giving, you called it cruelty." She inhaled sharply, then went cold. Maybe you should think about why no one wants to be around you. You're bitter, stubborn, impossible. No wonder you have no one. There was a version of me that would have dissolved. She doesn't live here anymore. I hung up, quietly. Then I blocked her number. Then Dad's. Then Mika's and Eli's. One small red blocked label at a time, my phone became a safer room. The next morning, Aaron texted a photo of a sunlit sidewalk and a coffee cup with my name spelled right. Walk? Later? Me. Tomorrow. Today's a me day. Aaron. Good. Proud of you, Rhea. I set the phone down and cleaned the kitchen. I replaced a burned-out bulb over the stove, lined the drawers, threw out 3 dead pens and a dried-up glue stick. Peace isn't only a feeling. It's a shelf you finally dust. That night, I opened social media again, not to punish myself, just to see if the world had calmed. Under Eli's restaurant post, a new comment glowed like a fresh bruise. Sienna Harper. Always worried about Rhea. Hope she's okay. Some people use money as control and then cry victim when it doesn't work. Proud of you, Eli, for stepping up. I felt the splinter I'd left in part 1 push deeper. Sienna, Aaron's ex, talking to my family like she knew my life better than I did. I clicked her profile, saw the familiar charity gala photos, the way she positioned herself in the frame like access was a skill. A newer photo popped up. Sienna and Mika at a track fundraiser, arms wrapped, comment threads full of heart emojis. Of course. I didn't text Aaron. I didn't want to bleed all over someone who'd offered me a clean towel. I screenshotted the post, saved it in a folder called Receipts, and shut the app. The doorbell rang. It wasn't a polite chime. It was the sound of someone who believed the door belonged to them. I stood very still and listened. A second ring, then a sharp knock. Rhea, a man's voice called through the wood. My father's. Open up, we need to talk. I looked at the lock. I looked at my hands. I breathed in, and the air stayed mine. I didn't move at first. I just stood there in the middle of my living room, my pulse matching the steady rhythm of his knock. Rhea, Dad called again, sharper this time. I know you're in there. Open up. Through the peephole, I saw both of them. Dad, jaw clenched tight enough to crack, and Mom, just behind him, hands twisting the strap of her purse like it might hold her excuses. I opened the door halfway. What do you want? Dad exhaled through his nose like I was already being difficult. We need to talk. Let us in. You can talk from there. He tried to step forward anyway. I didn't move. For a second, we just stared at each other, a quiet war at the threshold. He blinked first. This is ridiculous, Mom said finally, her tone sliding between wounded and performative. We're your parents. Are you really going to treat us like strangers? You stopped acting like parents a long time ago, I said. So yeah, I guess I am. Dad's voice cut in, all command and no care. We're behind on the mortgage. Mika and Eli can't cover it. We thought... No, I interrupted. He froze, thrown off by how fast it came. What do you mean, no? We haven't even told you how much... I don't need to know, I said. The answer doesn't change. His brows pulled tight. We're not asking for charity, Rhea. We're asking for help. You've been asking for help my whole life, I said quietly. You just forgot to stop calling it love. Mom stepped forward, voice rising with practiced desperation. We're going to lose the house. Do you understand that? Yes, I said. And it's not my job to save you from your own spending. Her eyes flashed. You think you're teaching us a lesson, but you're just proving how selfish you are. I smiled without humor. Then we finally agree on something. I closed the door. The sound wasn't loud, but it felt final. They stood there for a few seconds, long enough for me to feel the weight of their disbelief pressing against the wood. Then I heard footsteps retreating, their voices arguing as they walked down the driveway. I leaned back against the door, letting the silence sink in. It wasn't peace yet. It was the echo right before peace arrives. 3 weeks passed. No calls, no texts, no accidental visits, just quiet. I used to think quiet was loneliness. Now it felt like oxygen. I fixed the leaky faucet, bought a new set of bedsheets, replaced the cracked mug I'd been drinking out of for 3 years. Ordinary things, small repairs that somehow rebuilt me too. Aaron came by more often. He never pressed, just helped, replacing the batteries in the smoke alarm, carrying boxes, cooking simple meals when my hands wouldn't stop trembling from the withdrawal of obligation. One night, we were sitting on the couch, a half-finished movie playing softly in the background. He turned to me and asked, You ever think about talking to them again? Not to fix it, just to close the book? I already did, I said. The door's closed. They just keep trying to buy a new key. He nodded, quiet for a moment. Then, hesitantly, I saw something online earlier. Sienna posted about your family. I tensed. What did she say? He sighed. Nothing direct, just a comment. Something about people who use money to manipulate others. Mika liked it. My jaw clenched. Of course she did. Rhea. It's fine, I said, standing up too fast. Let her talk. Let them all talk. He stood too, cautious. I just wanted you to know, so it doesn't blindside you later. I turned toward him then, and for a second I saw it. The hesitation, the flicker of worry that maybe part of what they were saying had found a place to land in him. Do you believe them? I asked. His eyes softened. No, but I believe you still care what they think. That one landed. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You don't have to prove to anyone that you're the good one here. You already know who you are. I wanted to believe that. I really did. Later that night, while he slept next to me, I scrolled through my phone in the dark, staring at Sienna's post, her perfect face, framed by champagne glasses, and Mika's arm slung over her shoulder in the background. The caption read, Real family is chosen. I didn't comment, I didn't message her, I just saved the post to a folder titled Proof. Not because I needed revenge, because I was done letting other people rewrite my story. Days bled into weeks, work filled the hours, and the quiet turned from strange to steady. For the first time in years, I was spending money on myself, without guilt. A new winter coat, a small weekend trip with Aaron, a gym membership I'd been putting off because it always felt too indulgent. But peace doesn't come without tests. One Friday afternoon, I got a call from a woman I barely knew. Lara, an old neighbor from our childhood street. Hey, she said, hesitant. I'm not sure if I should be telling you this, but your parents have been talking to people around town. About what? She exhaled. About you. They're saying you drained their accounts, that you stopped paying bills you promised to cover. They've been telling everyone they had to remortgage because you stole from them. For a moment, I couldn't speak. They're saying I stole? Yeah, she said softly. I knew it didn't sound right, but I thought you should know. I thanked her and hung up, staring at the wall until the edges of the room started to blur. It wasn't enough for them to take my money. They wanted my name, too. I spent that night in my office, surrounded by paper, bank statements, transfer receipts, text logs, all the quiet proof that I'd been their unpaid savior for nearly a decade. Every number, every date, every time I'd saved them from a mess they'd later blamed me for. At 2 a.m., I opened a new document and titled it The Ledger. Line by line, I wrote it all down. Not just the transactions, the stories behind them. April 3rd, $450 for rent they forgot. June 14th, $300 for utilities after Eli's raise didn't kick in yet. September 1st, $700 for Dad's car repair that he called an emergency, but was actually a golf trip. By dawn, the document was 11 pages long. I stared at it, then whispered into the stillness, You can't steal what was already yours. When Aaron woke up and came into the office, he leaned over my shoulder, reading a few lines. This is, he began. Proof, I said. He nodded slowly. You're not planning to send this anywhere, are you? No, I said, not yet. He looked at me, careful but honest. Good. Just don't let it eat you. That's what they want. I won't, I said, even though part of me already had. That evening, as if summoned by the universe's cruel sense of timing, I got an email notification from Sienna Harper. Subject, just wanted to clear the air. I didn't open it. Not yet. Not while my hands were still shaking from what came before. I looked at the door instead. The same door they'd knocked on. The same door I'd finally learned to keep locked. They didn't own it. Not anymore. The subject line stared at me from the inbox like bait. Just wanted to clear the air. I almost deleted it. But curiosity has teeth, and I was tired of pretending I couldn't feel the bite. So I clicked. Hi, Rhea. I hope you don't take this the wrong way. I just think things get messy online, and I didn't want there to be weird energy between us. I know Mika and your family really well. Such great people. They just seem heartbroken over everything that's happened. I'm sure they love you. Maybe everyone just needs time to heal. Sienna. Polite. Polished. Poison wrapped in politeness. The kind of message that reads like kindness until you notice all the fingerprints it leaves behind. I closed the laptop and sat there for a long time, fingers pressed to my forehead. Not because it hurt, but because the precision of it amazed me. Sienna wasn't trying to reconcile. She was trying to make sure she stayed the voice of reason in a story that didn't belong to her. She'd always been like that, even when Aaron talked about their breakup. Measured, controlled, saying the right thing while quietly twisting the blade. And now she was friends with Mika, of course. They were perfect for each other. One needed an audience, the other needed an angle. When Aaron came home that evening, I told him. I handed him the laptop. He read it once, then twice, jaw tightening. Did she really send this? Yep, he sighed, dragging a hand through his hair. I'll talk to her. No, I said quickly. That's what she wants, for you to react, to make me look like I'm still competing with her. He paused, then nodded slowly. You're right. For a while, we just stood there in the kitchen, the refrigerator humming between us. Then he said, Rhea, I need you to know something. Sienna and I haven't talked since before you and I got serious. But when she found out we were together, she messaged Mika. I didn't respond, but Mika reached out to her again. I think she's been feeding Sienna details. Details like what? Like your family stuff, he said quietly. I didn't tell her anything, but Sienna loves playing savior, and Mika loves an audience. The room tilted slightly. So she's been using my own sister to do PR damage for my parents? Aaron didn't answer. He didn't have to. That night, I opened my ledger file again. Not to add more, but to read what was already there. The proof. The pattern. The paper trail of how they turned my care into their currency. Every line was a truth they couldn't erase. And maybe that was enough. 2 days later, a call came from Dad. Unknown number, but his tone was unmistakable. Sharp, cold, steady. I heard you've been telling people we owe you money, he said. I almost laughed. I haven't told anyone, but maybe the truth just has better aim than your lies. Drop the attitude, he snapped. We've been embarrassed enough as it is. You've said your piece. Now be done. I am done, I said. But let me be very clear. If I hear you or Mom or anyone else spreading lies about me stealing from you, I'll send the ledger. Every page. To everyone you know. Silence, then quietly, you wouldn't. Try me, I said, and ended the call. It felt like closing a tab you'd left open for years. That weekend, Aaron and I went out for dinner. Nothing fancy, just a small bistro with flickering candles and the kind of quiet you can't buy. For the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about what my family was saying. I was just there. Halfway through dessert, Aaron's phone buzzed. He frowned. Sienna again? I asked. He glanced at the screen and sighed. She tagged me in a post. What kind of post? He turned the screen toward me. A smiling photo of her at some fundraiser, surrounded by people, including Mika, standing right beside her. The caption read, When loyalty means doing the hard thing. Always love, never hate. My jaw tightened. She's good. I'll give her that. He put the phone face down. You don't have to fight this. I'm not fighting it, I said. I'm documenting it. He smiled faintly. You and your ledgers. It's not revenge, I said. It's memory insurance. A week later, karma, or something like it, finally turned its head. One of Mika's old teammates from the university track program messaged me out of nowhere. Danielle, someone I hadn't seen in years. Hey, she wrote, just so you know, Mika's been bragging that she got Sienna to take your side online because it makes your boyfriend look guilty by association. She called it a social checkmate. Thought you should know. I stared at the message until the words steadied. It wasn't just spite anymore, it was strategy. And for the first time, I realized something. They didn't want reconciliation. They wanted control. The same kind they'd lost when I said no. That night, I opened my ledger for the last time. I added one more line. March 3rd. Emotional manipulation escalated into public defamation. Lesson: silence feeds monsters. Truth starves them. Then I hit print. The pages came out warm, smelling faintly of ink and closure. I slid them into a folder, labeled it proof, and tucked it in my desk. Not to use, just to remind myself that I hadn't imagined any of it. A few days later, I got a text from Eli. Just one line. You were right about everything. I'm sorry. It wasn't much, but it was enough to close the door gently instead of slamming it. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. That night, Aaron found me standing by the window, watching the city lights flicker. You okay? He asked. I think so, I said. For the first time, I don't feel like I owe anyone an explanation. He nodded, then kissed the side of my head. That's freedom. I smiled. It's expensive, but worth every cent. The next morning, I brewed coffee, opened my budgeting app, and made a new folder titled For Me. Inside it, a savings goal for a trip. A small note that said, boundaries are not walls. They're locks on doors you paid for. And tucked at the bottom, one photo of Mika and me from when we were kids, back before hierarchy, before manipulation, before the debt they pretended I owed. I didn't delete it. I just renamed the file, Proof of Life. Then I closed the laptop, let the quiet fill the room, and breathed. No calls, no guilt, no noise. Just the hum of a phone that didn't belong to anyone but me.